Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
On this episode of Missing the Point, after dominating the Chargers, the Patriots are back to 500. But with just 4 games left in the season, and still a long shot for the playoffs, did the Patriots actually do more harm than good to their future? We'll also touch on the rest of the NFL through Week 13, and talk about coaches on the hot seat, as we've already seen 3 coaches fired this season. Now we could potentially see up to 6 more. All that and more of Joe, Bob, and Rayshawn. But first, some housekeeping. Missing the Point is a 1-hour weekly podcast recapping the biggest stories in the world of sports with a New England flavor. The show notes and transcript of today's episode can be found in the description box below, as well as on our website, www.mtpshow.com. If you're new to the show, consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to see when we publish new episodes. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to rate us and leave a review of any of our shows. We always appreciate your feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. All of our links will be in the show notes. And check out our brand new website, www.mtpshow.com. That's mtpshow.com. And now, this is Missing the Point. But it's all relative.
Welcome into episode 21 of Missing the Point. My name's Joe Malkin, joined by Rayshawn, Buchanan, Bob Kelly, and as always, our executive producer, Craig D'Alessandro. Guys, we have a lot to talk about in the NFL this week as we get into week 14, as we're finishing week 13 as we record this. But guys, how are you both doing tonight, Bobby?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to be back for another week of Missing the Point. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. So I'm just excited to be here. As always, excited to talk some football. Let's get it going.
Ray, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Y'all know personally it's been kind of crazy for me lately. So, it's always good to be around y'all and talk to y'all and, get another show out there. So, like Bobby said, we have a lot of great things coming and, it starts tonight. So let's get to it.
Yeah, and as we talk about the end of week 13 and we move into week 14, we can tell you a little bit of that stuff. Check out our last 2 episodes. Dave Clarke gave us a great quiz show last week. And 2 weeks ago, before Thanksgiving, we spoke to former VP of officiating for the NFL, Dean Blandino. And next week, thanks to our executive producer, Craig D'Alessandro, we're going to talk to Boston sports reporter Abby Chin, who will be coming up. And we also have our NBA preview show that will be coming out on opening day. And this Sunday on the 13th is our live show. So as the guy said, we have so much coming up, but one of the big things we definitely want to plug and tell you guys about is the interview we have coming up with Abby Chin next week on Thursday, the 17th. So that's going to be a fun one, guys. But let's get into the NFL, and let's start with at least our hometown team, the New England Patriots, the team that Bobby was a fan of and then jumped ship, as everyone knows. But let's talk about the New England Patriots and what has transpired in their season, especially yesterday, where they beat the LA Chargers 45-0 on the road at SoFi Stadium. And guys, interesting day for the Patriots. Finally, they click in all 3 segments of the game. On offense, we saw Cam look fairly good. The defense looked awesome. And special teams, Gunnar Olszewski getting a punt return for a touchdown. So, Ray, what was your take on yesterday's 45-0 win over the Chargers for the Patriots?
So I can't say that Cam had a great game. I mean, obviously, I know he had 3 total touchdowns, but, to go 12-18 for 69 yards, and basically have another performance where he has under 100 passing yards, to me, that's still unacceptable. But right now, I feel like it's really becoming 2011 Denver Bronco-ish. And what I mean by that is, Tebow was throwing 7 for 15 and like 70 yards. But I remember the game he had against Denver when he runs it in at the end of the game, and obviously they beat the Steelers in the wild card round, which was that was a crazy game at that time. So I just feel like that's what it looks like that's happening with us. And I didn't think we would be 6-6 this late in the year. The way they'd been playing when they had lost 3 out of 4 and now they've won 4 out of 5 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So I was pleased to see everybody kind of come together. Devin McCourty was moving on that block kick. So, I was like, wow, okay, the old man still got a little juice in those legs. So, but I was excited to see them blow it out. And I just felt like it was a win that said, hey, we are on our last leg, so to speak, but we're not dead yet. So,
yeah, 130 passing yards total. Jarrett Stidham was 2 for 3, 61 yards and a touchdown. And you mentioned Cam with the 3 total touchdowns, 1 through the air, 2 on the ground. Gunnar Olszewski and N'Keal Harry had the 2 touchdowns receiving. I agree with you. And just to kind of rebut what you said there about the 2011 Broncos where Tebow would have 70 yards, we'll also have to remember that Belichick's dad was the head coach at the Naval Academy for years. So we already know that he has a soft spot for the triple option, which has been working for the last couple of weeks at least. But Bobby, the non-resident Patriots fan, what are your takeaways from yesterday's Patriots-Chargers game?
That Bill Belichick will in forever dominate and eat rookie quarterbacks for breakfast. It's something that I don't want to say I forgot about, but I didn't remember how evident it really is. He gets in their heads. If these guys don't have experience, he just eats them alive, and he ate Herbert alive yesterday. It absolutely killed him. The other thing is, I don't think enough can be said about Damian Harris and his coming out party that's been happening the last few weeks. I think that has a lot to do with what's been happening. You look at it, right? You used to say it 4 or 5 weeks ago when Damian Harris first came out, like, this dude, he just runs hard, man. And I feel like that's something that they were missing these past those first 5-6 weeks. I think that's something that really helps this team, because I don't think that the way to be successful isn't necessarily that triple option to me. It's to just pound the ball down their throat. That's what they did the last 2 years of Brady, and that's what made them successful. So when they get back to that, that's when you see them having a success like they did yesterday.
But to add to that, right, I think so. Obviously, we talked about early in the season they was going to have a top 5 rushing attack, or even top 10, and they've been top 5. So that's clearly the strength. Like, that's whether it's Damian Harris, Sonny Michel, JJ Taylor's had some success when he's played early in the year. Like, they have to do it like that, because obviously they're not going to have enough of an outside threat to continuously do that. But I feel like we need a mix of what we saw, I guess, Miami and Seattle from Cam, in order for them to be successful and possibly even win out, which is kind of crazy. I don't think they're going to win out and go 10-6. Like, I do think they can go 9-7. I think that's possible. I don't trust that the Dolphins and Bills, a lot of those guys have not been there. And granted, not everyone on the Patriots has either. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I trust Bill in those moments more than I would Flores or Sean McDermott. And, the telltale sign will be Thursday when they face the LA Rams. So I think if they get by the Rams, I think they win a couple of more games and get to that 9-win mark and then end the season 9-7.
And that's what's interesting about this West Coast swing, right? I thought this was the coolest part of their schedule. Now you have these two teams playing in the same city, so the Patriots go out to play the Chargers on Sunday, and they're just going to hang out in LA for 3-4 days until they play the Rams, and then they'll head home. So my look at this, and Bobby, you kind of said it, or you did say it, that Bill Belichick is now 20-5 in his career against rookie quarterbacks, which is unbelievable. And I said this to you guys before this game, and I knew that this was going to be a big part of it. And we'll get to this point a little bit later in the show, but I'll kind of tease it a little bit, is that some of the coaching decisions on the Chargers side of the ball, which was already being questioned coming into this game, were very interesting. And I think this team may have had a better chance with Tyrod Taylor under center. And that's not to say that Justin Herbert isn't the better quarterback, but Bill Belichick does have a tendency to rip apart rookie QBs, and he did that again this week and got a huge win out of it. And one of the biggest things is that I took from what you said, Bobby, was running downhill and running through people. And they did do that, right? Damian Harris, 80 yards, Cam Newton, 48, Sony Michel had 35, Dante Moncrief had 4 rushing yards. So there's a name from Indianapolis Colts past, now wearing a Patriots uniform. And that's really what it is. It's really that RPO, that new style option, not the triple option that we still see the Naval Academy running with the wing T and all the other stuff. So that is their style, and they can get away with not throwing for 300 yards like they used to. And Ray, I don't think Cam looks right. I don't think he's throwing the ball right. I don't think he's totally healthy, and I don't mean from a COVID standpoint. I mean from a him standpoint, from a physical standpoint. So I think that's why we're seeing it, but I think we're finally seeing now, and Bobby kind of mentioned this earlier in the season with the Patriots, where they give it time, because he's also said this with other teams where you're trying to change the culture, you're trying to change things about a team, and really that is what's happening with the Patriots. You're trying to form a whole new team and offense around one guy. So as long as they can remain consistent and Josh and Cam can work well together, I think we're going to see some more success. But at 6-6, this team is now in third place, or still in third place. I shouldn't say now because the Jets stink, but they're in third place, 3 games out of the division lead with 4 to play. What do we think about the Patriots' chances of, I don't want to say winning the division because that probably won't happen because that Bills team is very good. But what do we think of the Patriots' chances of getting into the playoffs, as they are currently the number 10 seed in the AFC, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I just alluded to it a little bit a few minutes ago, but I do think they find a way to become 9-7, and I do think some teams that are ahead of them right now. So, we're keeping an eye right now on the Baltimore and Dallas game, because we have the tiebreaker against Baltimore, we have the tiebreaker against the Raiders as well. So it's like if those 2 teams slip and we find a way to rise up, then not to steal a turn from the Falcons, so we don't want to rise up like them. We want to do better than that. But I just think that if they find a way to get in there, it just sucks because if Kansas City stays the 2 seed, then we'll definitely be going home in the first round. But and Bobby may be surprised when I say this, because I've been talking about them being good all year. But I would actually like our chances if we face Pittsburgh in the first round. I really would. I just think that because of the injuries they've had, and I also think it's in their head that they've never beaten us when it matters. I think that if New England found a way to get in to be that 7th seed, and they went up to Heinz Field, and we run the ball the way that we could run it, I think they have a chance to at least steal one, and it'd be like 2001 all over again. So that's just where I see it. So I think they finished best at 9-7. Could they be 10-6? Sure. I mean, like, it's possible, because that's how many games they have 4 games left on the schedule. But I just think realistically it'd be like a 9-7 or an 8-8.
So looking at the rest of the Patriots schedule, you mentioned the last 4 games. They take on the Rams on the road on Thursday Night Football. Then on the 20th of December, they're in South Florida to play Miami. On the 28th, they are at home to take on the Bills. And on January 3rd, they're at home to take on the Jets. So it's all speculation. I could see them getting 2 of those 4 games. I think they, as much as Belichick is known for beating up on rookie quarterbacks, I think he also has why is the Rams coach
Sean McVay?
Sean McVay. Sean McVay, he kind of has his number as well.
It's because McVay just gushes over him every time he sees him.
That's true. And if Tua starts for the Dolphins, there's another rookie quarterback. So let's see what happens. And I mean, it is realistic, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here because it's just speculation, but it is realistic that the Patriots could go 10-6, as Ray said, and win these last 4 games, 3 of which are divisional games, and they could finish second in the division and get that wild card.
That's just the wildest thing ever to me, honestly. Like, you guys, and you guys know I love to troll, but like, this honestly isn't even. It's just it's such a testament to how amazing Bill Belichick really is. You know what I mean? It's just like the respect that I have for that man as a head coach is above and beyond anyone else. Because when you think about the lack of talent on this team and the fact that we're sitting here at week 12 and we're talking about a path for this team to go to the playoffs is unbelievable to me. You know what I mean? Like, going into this season, like I told you guys, I was like, I literally told you guys you were insane to even think that a playoffs was a chance. Like, don't even think about it because you're just getting your hopes up. And you know what I mean? You're just going to be disappointed and end up in the middle of the draft like I always do. Listen, that doesn't seem to be what's happening because honestly, you look at those games, like you just said, Joe, those are winnable games for this Patriots team. I honestly think the toughest one for them is if they get by Thursday against the Rams, they're in business. If they can beat the Rams on Thursday, this team is in business because you know Bill Belichick is not going to let this team in a December game against the Bills and the Dolphins be no-shows. That's not going to happen. You know, as much as I doubted this team in the beginning of the season, that's just something that right now I don't see happening.
So this is another thing we talk about on a regular basis, and Bobby, you just said it there. What's interesting about this team and this franchise is, at least from we've all kind of agreed on 07, at least from 07 to 2019, it was really Bill and Tom, right? Prior to 07, we still said, you know, Tom's good, but Bill has put this team where it needs to be. And this year, Bobby, it's not like you're talking about Cam Newton leading this team to the playoffs or the defense leading this team to the playoffs. We're all talking about Bill Belichick here, right? Bill. Like when we talk about the Patriots versus the Rams, it's because of how enamored, as you said, McVay is with Bill. When we talk about the Dolphins, it's because it's one of his former assistant coaches who they have already beat once this season and are now starting a rookie quarterback. So we're again looking at Bill's record against rookie quarterbacks. We talk about the Bills and we talk about Bill's mind games with McDermott up there in Buffalo. And then we talk about the Jets and how bad they are. So yeah, there's a path, right? So, I mean, we have to give this team a chance. And Bobby, I remember after that Denver game, Ray and I were about to hop in the car and come out and pay you a visit in New York, but because of how you were talking about this. But you know, looking back on it, you weren't wrong. Right. You weren't wrong. And so, and we're going to talk about coaches a lot more in our next segment. But one thing we have to bring up, and we have to look at from a non-Patriot standpoint and look at it from an NFL standpoint, because we talked about this in our meeting last night. We've talked about it at other points. We can talk about good coaches. We talked about Mike Tomlin last night, who the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. They just got their first loss against the Washington football team. We talk about Andy Reid, who is also one of the best coaches of our generation. We talk about Pete Carroll, who's just a motivator and a very good coach. But none of those guys could do more. And I'm not saying this as a Patriots fan. This is as an NFL fan. None of those guys could do what Bill does with the rosters he builds and the adversity that he faces. And that you'd be surprised how much adversity a guy with 6 Super Bowl rings faces. And one thing that he is great at that those other 3 guys aren't good at that I just mentioned is clock management. And that's one of the biggest things at the end of the first half and at the end of the game that these guys have to deal with. And Bill's the best at it.
And I think what really goes to show how this is all built to me is when the Patriots win this year, they win because of game plan, and you can see it from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like from the beginning of that game, you're like, okay, Patriots are in this game, and they're gonna be in this game the entire time. When the game plan's off and something's wrong, they get smacked because they're not good. You know what I mean? Like they're not a good football team. So they don't have the talent or any kind of like big play ability to make up for lack of game plan. So as soon as they get that game plan right, like you saw it against the Cardinals, they just knew how to beat Kyler. They stopped him from running. They made Kyler beat him with his arm, and they couldn't do it. You see it with the Ravens. Same thing with Lamar. You see it last game against the Chargers. You know what I mean? Just rookie quarterbacks. When Bill game plans, it's game over, guys. It's game over. You know what I mean? So that's why this week to me is the game. If they can win this week, they actually have a shot. There's a lot that needs to happen. Granted, there's a lot of teams they need to jump. They need a lot of people to lose. But two of those teams, they play. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's possible. It is.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're absolutely right. And like I said, it's mind blowing. And like Joe said, like we definitely was ready to pay you a visit after that Denver game. But it's like we I mean, honestly, and I remember saying this because I was, like I said, I was so mad. I was like, you can't lose a game like this to this team. I don't care how bad this team is now. And to your point about them being in every game, the only game they was out of it from the jump really was the San Fran game, right? So Kansas City, they was in it until Brian Hoyer, the worst quarterback. He looked like me out there. So take that for a soundbite. But that was ridiculous how bad he looked against Kansas City.
Talking about getting in the car ready to beat someone up. That was you guys that night after he blew that first half. Oh my God! Yeah, you guys were ready to go.
I'm like, wait a minute, like you had him, and yes, to the Mahomes faithful out there that believes that he's invincible, and I get it. Bill has done very well against him early in his career. That's just a fact. So it's not something where it's like, he just stays dominates. Now, that game was there to win, and who knows, maybe if we had Cam running some of them plays instead of Hoyer instead of him, who knows? But I want to circle the wagons back to how because we touched on it briefly because we talked about his numbers now. Yes, it was in a blowout. Yes, there was no pressure. That's the best I've seen Stidham look since he's been here. And those few throws like that depth, I mean, even though it was a great play design that they had throwing, but that picture catch he had to Gunnar Shusky, that was the best throw I've seen him make really since the preseason last year, right? So, and I think that's what people kind of got on the hype train and was trying to talk themselves into. And they're like, oh, okay, well, if he does what he does in the preseason, maybe he'll have some type of a chance. But, we didn't see it against the Jets last year. We didn't see it earlier this year against Kansas City. So, that I think people kind of cooled on, well, not kind of, they did cool on the idea of him, being the quintessential leader or predecessor to Cam or to Brady or whoever's going to be there. So we'll see. But like I said, if they win Thursday night, I'm going to be definitive because I feel like I've been dancing. If they win Thursday night, they're going to run the table. I'm putting out there right now, and yes,
I don't disagree with you.
Y'all want to sound like I'm a homer? Fine, call me what you want. If they win Thursday night, which is feasible, and like I said, San Francisco let me know that Thursday was a winnable game because of how they came in there and beat them a couple weeks ago. So I was worried about this game initially, but when I saw San Francisco do what they did, I'm positive that Bill looking at that tape and said, okay, we can attack them here, attack them there. We can do this, we can do that. So that's just what it is. So if New England wins Thursday, you can rest assured they're going to run the table, and who knows what can happen from there.
Yeah, I can promise you this: you'll know within the first quarter. You'll know how that game is going to go, because if the Pats are, like I said, if they're playing power football, that's the thing about their triple option is their triple option is power. That's what they need to do. When they get to the finesse triple option, you see Cam maybe handing it off. You see him maybe not. Then he runs outside. That's when it goes downhill. If they can sit there and just pound the Rams up the middle, they're in business, guys.
Yeah, and don't forget that this Rams defense is pretty good, but
they're unbelievable.
The offense is okay. It's above average, but it's suspect. I mean, Jared Goff is serviceable, right? They have some good receivers. They have some good backs. But it's not, it's not Todd Gurley in the backfield, and they're not quite the Super Bowl season Rams that they once were. So, but again, to finish off the Patriots review, preview, and love fest here, we do understand that the Patriots do not have a talented roster. They just don't. But it really comes down to Bill Belichick and game planning. And at this point in the season, where what he has on the field is finally healthy, whether we're talking about injuries or COVID cases, the team is healthy and they're moving in the right direction. The game plan seems right, and everybody's clicking.
Number 11, we need you. So come back in that Miami game. Come down and get some of that warm sun. I'll fly down to Miami. We can hit up Finger Licking on 125th. We just have a good time, Julian. We need you back, brother.
If Jules would be a big help right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, he would.
If the Patriots have a chance to make the playoffs going into week 17 or week 16, like they actually have a chance, and it's a story in the NFL. To me, I know Stefanski's been amazing. We haven't seen the Browns win in a long time. Hands down, Bill Belichick should be coach of the year. The job it should be a guarantee to me to see the job that he's doing with this roster. If they actually have a chance to make the playoffs, this dude is the coach of the year. I'm sorry, he is. It's either him or Shanahan, and Shanahan's not getting it because they're 5-7. But the things that he's done is just on special teams, on defense. It's just every week he's finding ways to put points on the board because he knows his offense can't. And it's just watching them play to me is just, it's beautiful, but it's so fucking frustrating because it's just like, how the fuck does this dude do this? It's unreal.
I'm just so happy to hear you saying this that I want to let you go, but there are 31 other teams, and no, you literally don't have to be sorry. This is literally just my segue. So there are 31 other teams, and there's a lot of other news, but if you're right, they run the table, they're 10-6. There's a good chance they get in. There's 7 teams in the playoffs this year, and if they can squeak in, all you got to do is get in the tournament. We've seen it before, and you guys know what I'm going to say. The 9-7 Giants did it against the 18-0 Patriots in 2007. So anything is possible. But we're going to move on to the rest of the NFL. Before we do, we have a quick message from our sponsor, Boxo Crafts.
But first, this episode is being brought to you by Boxo Crafts. Boxo is an arts and crafts-focused kids subscription box. Boxo is a parent-run company that combines creativity and convenience in one monthly package, delivered right to your door. Boxo's premier box, Boxo Holidays, contains 4 separate art projects to get you and your family into the holiday spirit. Whether it's Halloween, Hanukkah, or Easter, they've got you covered with holiday fun. Boxo, we can't wait to see you create. Check out BoxoCrafts.com, and exclusively to our listeners, enter the promo code MTP for 15% off your first order. That's BOXO Crafts.com, promo code MTP.
Thanks, Craig, and welcome back to episode 21 of Missing the Point. Joe Malkin, Bob Kelly, Rayshawn Buchanan, and, well, you just heard from him, Craig D'Alessandro, helping us out here. And we're going to move on to the rest of the NFL. And as everyone, if you don't follow us on our Instagram, @_missing the point, head over there and check out the weekly NFL power rankings provided to you by Bob Kelly. And Bobby,
we don't know what the hell you're doing if you don't follow us on Instagram.
Well, that's true.
What's going on here?
Craig's been doing a great job. So again, Craig will link this in the show notes. We love to tell Craig to link things in the show notes. It's why I mention all of our episodes. But we would love you to go over to @_missing the point on Instagram and give us a follow. And you can do the same over on Twitter as well. So Bobby, you provide us with your weekly rankings, your weekly power rankings every week. And we've been doing the top 10, but this week we have a top 20, and we will only be publishing the top 10 on Instagram. But we have a little bit of a shakeup for the first time in a few weeks. And let's start with number 10 and we'll work our way up to number 1. But you have some teams that are playoff teams outside the top 10, which is understandable because there will be a team in the 20s if it comes out of the NFC East that will be in the playoffs. But Bobby, run us through your number 10 through number 6 before we get into the top 5.
All right, absolutely. So number 10 to me, I know they just had a huge letdown this week. I still believe in them. I think that they're just a very hot and cold team. They go as Russ goes, and that's the Seattle Seahawks, number 10. Number 9, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I've said this all season. They are the least interesting, most boring, good football team I've ever watched in my entire life. But somehow they're still in every single game, and they're right there. They have a chance in the AFC for sure. Number 9, the Colts. Number 8, we got the Rams. I believe in the Rams. That's why I think that, like we just said, I think that Patriots game against the Rams is their biggest one to go so far, because I really do believe in that team. I think Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the NFL. The only question I have with them is Jared Goff, but they're still right there. Number 8, the Rams. Number 7, I struggle to put them at number 7 because I honestly think this team is frauds. And I know that's a crazy thing to say about a number 7 team, but that's the Buffalo Bills. They looked amazing last night. I'm not gonna hate on that. But to me, Josh Allen is a ticking time bomb. Again, he looked amazing last night. So it's crazy to say this right now. But I think if you put pressure and you get in his head, he's going to turn the ball over multiple times. That's why I think the Patriots have a really good shot against them. Number 6, the Cleveland Browns, ladies and gentlemen, up to number 6. What a win this week against the Titans. I believe in Baker after these last 2 weeks. I said this after OBJ went out. I think he is a prime candidate for the Ewing theory. As soon as he left, Baker Mayfield has looked like a different quarterback, firing on all cylinders. Number 6, the Browns.
So to recap your 10 through 6, I agree with you on the Seahawks, and Ray will give you some time here too. I agree with you on the Seahawks. The Colts, I love the Colts. I think number 9 is a good spot for them, but I'm a big fan of Frank Reich. Frank Reich is the head coach that it was the second choice of Jim Irsay and the Colts after Josh McDaniels decided not to get on the plane from Boston to Indy.
I think it was a better choice.
I think it was a better choice in the long run. Absolutely. And I think that with your quarterback situation in Indy right now with Phillip Rivers, and they've been using Jacoby Brissett a lot, I think they've really done a good job of incorporating both of those guys into the offense. And I said a few weeks ago that I would have liked Phillip Rivers in New England over Cam Newton. I still stick by that, but I think that Frank Reich as a head coach is a better guy to handle the personality of Phillip Rivers than Josh McDaniels. And then number 8, the Rams, they're going to fall out of your top 10 because I do believe they're going to lose to the Patriots. That doesn't mean I don't believe in their defense. They have Jalen Ramsey. They have Aaron Donald. They have a very good team, and they have a very good team on offense. I just don't think Sean McVay, who is no older than any of us doing this podcast, which is still mind-blowing to me. I just don't think he's there yet in terms of experience. Sure, he's been to a Super Bowl, and Stan Kroenke has given him everything he wants. He won't give the fans what they want, but he'll give his coach what he wants. But that's a different podcast for a different time. And he will be successful and continue to be successful, and they'll give him the team and the resources. I think they're more fraudulent than the team you put above them in the Buffalo Bills. I honestly believe that Allen is growing by the week, and I think his composure is getting better. His throws, his arm is the most
it's unbelievable, man. It's crazy.
He's got an unbelievable arm, but he's like Ricky Vaughn. He can throw it a mile, but he doesn't know where it's going. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting to watch him play and see what he can do as a quarterback. I don't necessarily agree with you that the Bills are frauds. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl, but the team in that top 10 that I think I like the most are the Browns. I said this the other night. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is a cancer in that locker room. Mm-hmm. He was in New York before he left. When he got to Cleveland, he was okay to start with, right? Like he got Jarvis Landry there from Miami. Him and Baker and Jarvis really got along and everything went well.
It was the other way around, wasn't it?
No, didn't he?
Jarvis brought
Sorry,
OBJ,
Jarvis was there. Yeah, Jarvis was there. He brought OBJ in. Everything was good. They bring in Kareem Hunt. They draft Nick Chubb. They get Baker Mayfield. All these guys kind of have similar personalities, right? They're eccentric. They love to not. I don't want to say show off or showboat, but they
be the guy.
They love to be the guy. But that's the problem. Odell starts, saying, "I need the ball more. I need the ball more," and you see Baker start to force him the ball, and the Browns just they looked off. They didn't look good. And him not being in the lineup, I think you're right. It's the Ewing effect. I think it's going to be great for that team in the long run. Ray, what are your thoughts on 10 through 6?
Russ, the best thing you got going right now is Sierra. So hey Sierra, how you doing, baby?
DK Metcalf would like to argue with you on that point.
No, but I mean, to only score 12 points against the Giants, and granted, DK Metcalf had a decent game, but I mean, come on, I mean, damn, like
they were off. They were off. They've
been off a few times this year, and once again, they were a goal line stand away from losing to us too. So, maybe they're not as real as they came off to be. And listen, we could kill that noise about Russell Wilson being the MVP after losing this type of game. Sorry, like that's not working. And then as far as Josh Allen, this is where Craig, if you want to jump in, you can. Me and Craig have said it on this show. We said it earlier in the year that Josh Allen was going to lead Buffalo to winning the AFC East.
He did,
and we talked about him being that guy. Now
they convinced Joe to take him.
Yeah, so he didn't really convince. He just kind of, it was a 2 against 1 ordeal. So that's just what happened. Yeah, so
majority wins and the voting isn't rigged.
Yeah, when the Speaker of the House dick isn't on the table.
That's right.
So that's what happens. So he and like I said, that wheel route that he threw last night, I forget to who it was. It wasn't Gabriel Davis. I forget the guy he threw it to, but that was a hell of a play. And like I said, I mean, outside of Mahomes, I'm not sure there's anyone that has a better arm than Josh Allen. Like, it's unreal. And as far as Cleveland goes, like, I know, and I'm surprised Joe didn't say this. Maybe he was waiting for me to say it, and I might have him fall off his couch when I say this, but OBJ is kind of like the Kyrie of the NFL.
Yes. Yep. He's not as bad though. He's not as bad. Kyrie's so much worse.
Kyrie is worse.
Now, and this is weird, and you guys may disagree because I just called him Kyrie, but I do feel like if he was here, you wouldn't see half of that stuff that he was doing.
I agree with that.
And I'm like,
not at first.
I think that, yeah, not at first, but I just still feel like, because it's weird. Remember, loved Chad Ochocinco. He loved him. I can argue that Chad Ochocinco was more of a personality than OBJ would ever be.
Oh yeah,
But Bill loves
OBJ.
Him.
He loves OBJ.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like had the Giants had said, hey, we're going to trade you him. I mean, granted, I think Brady's still here. We have OBJ thing, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I just think that Cleveland has been awesome. And, shout out to the Browns fans that have held it down. You guys have not had.
I'm happy for him.
A decent team, whether it was, was it Kelly Holcomb and was it
Kelly Holcomb? Yeah, Kelly Holcomb.
Yeah, Kelly Holcomb.
Dennis Northcutt.
Here we go. This is what you were talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
This is what you were talking about. Going to the deep, dark depths of Cleveland Browns football.
Sorry. That's right. Yeah, sorry. That's not. Welcome to the Cleveland Browns revisionist history. But no,
Ruben Drones.
All right. So anyway, all right. We gotta hang on a second. I'm taking control of my show.
This is about the Browns. I actually have a legitimate question. Okay. So Ruben, no, just kidding. So when it comes when it comes to the Seahawks, right? So I get them at 10 because they do go up and down so much. The teams behind them. This is why I had trouble taking them out of the top 10. Right? We have the Titans, the Buccaneers, and the Cardinals. Would you legitimately take any of those three teams and put them above the Seahawks?
No,
after this week, no.
And then to go even lower than that, you have the Raiders, the Ravens, and the Giants. And now what's interesting is you guys, you just mentioned it about the Giants and how, they were beaten by a Colt McCoy led Giants team.
I'm kind of a believer in the Giants, man, to be honest.
Listen, you got to go back and you got to watch the games. And I mean this wholeheartedly because I thought it last night when I was watching that Giants Seahawks game. You have to go back and look at the common opponents that the Giants and the Patriots have. And look at the results that the Giants have over the teams that the Patriots have played after the Patriots have played them. Because Joe Judge came from the New England Patriots. I think Joe Judge might be an underrated head coach. And I said it weeks ago that the New York Giants would win the NFC East. Because they got hot and they started. Now, granted, Dallas doesn't look terrible tonight. I mean, it's coming down to the second quarter at the end of the second quarter as we record this, and they're driving against the Ravens. The football team beat the best team in the NFL, at least on paper last night, right? As Mike likes to say, no paper champions. The Giants beat the Seahawks. I mean, the Eagles still stink, but we're looking at an entertaining finish to the season in the NFC East, but I think that Giants team is underrated, and you having them at 16, Bobby, I really like that.
I think that if we were to post the whole rankings, people would go nuts about that. But if you look at their schedule, right, you look at the teams the Giants have lost to, there's really not any bad football teams that they lost to. Week 1, Steelers. They lost to the Bears when the Bears were still pretty good. Right, they were still good. They lost to the Rams. They lost to the Cowboys the week Dak got hurt. The Bucks in a close, great game. And then we have the Giants. The Giants. They beat the Eagles, beat the Bengals, beat the football team, and beat the Bengals, and then beat the Seahawks.
So they're beating the teams that they should beat, and then they're losing to the teams that they should lose to, except for the Seahawks.
In close games, though, that's the thing. Is these games are all close, every single one of them.
In a year where they're trying to figure it out, and thank goodness they're in a bad division, right? So before we go off on now a Giants tangent, let's get into your top 5. Your number 5 is interesting to me, but I'll handle that in my recap.
So number 5, I have the Dolphins. I'm a big believer in the Dolphins. I really think this team, to me, I think it's the Belichick tree thing. They remind me a lot of the Patriots, but a better version of them, where they don't need to play great offense. They don't need to make these big plays that other teams need to make, because they just play sound, solid football from beginning to end. So I think that's why the Dolphins have a legit chance to lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. They have a legitimate chance to do that. Number 4, I think this is going to cause some controversy. They just lost their first game last night. The only reason they're at number 1 prior to this is because they were undefeated. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 4. I honestly think what we saw last night is the team they are. They almost lost to the Cowboys. They play down to their competition so much. And to me, the Steelers are a prime candidate to go 15-1 and get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. I think they are a prime candidate for that. The reason I put them at 4 is because I think head-to-head, these next 3 teams beat the Steelers, and they beat them pretty easily when they're at full health. I don't know if number 2 would right this moment. Full health, they would. Number 3, the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers, to me, is on a mission this year. I know they have up and down weeks, but when Aaron Rodgers is on, that team is unbeatable. Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers are such a combo together. It's so beautiful to watch. Number 2, the Saints. Sean Payton, he's another one where I think that he is such a candidate for Coach of the Year. To be able to be the number 1 seed in the NFC after losing Breeze, and even before that, Breeze wasn't even playing great. He hasn't had Michael Thomas all year. This team hasn't been full health, and they are the number 1 seed in the NFC. Granted, it's a flawed NFC, but they literally haven't had their team for 1 week so far this season, and they're number 1 seed. Number 2 is Saints. Number 1, to me, everyone's playing catch up. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to need something special to beat the Chiefs. You're going to need them to be off. You're going to need them to play a terrible game like they did against the Raiders. And even then, you still might not have a chance. The Kansas City Chiefs are by far and away the best team in football, and it's not even close to me.
You have been waiting for the Steelers to lose so you can put the Chiefs at number one for weeks. I'm going to start with number 5 in the Dolphins, and Ray is going to love this because he and I have talked about this before. Brian Flores. If Bill Belichick were not the coach of the New England Patriots, Brian Flores would be the best coach in the AFC East. Mm-hmm. I think he is managing that team correctly. I think he's managing his quarterbacks correctly. I also think Ryan Fitzpatrick is just a model citizen and a good human being, and I think he understands what needs to be done for the team. And, I mean, no one gets more excited for Tua to succeed than he does, than Fitzpatrick does, because I think he's a journeyman, right? He's not over the hill because we know he can still play, and there's video of him wearing short shorts and his thighs are incredible. Like I wish I had those legs, but that team, they have Myles Gaskins, they have Devontae Parker, they have Matt Breida there. Tua Tagovailoa and Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, Mike Gesicki at tight end. They have some very good young receivers. Mac Hollins, which I think Ray mentioned him on another show, but Jakeem Grant, and their offensive line. I mean, they have Ted Karras, former Patriot. That's just a good team, and
they're just a football team, man.
They are.
They just play ball. That's
Jerome Baker, Kyle Van Noy, and Landon Roberts are your linebackers. Like, it's the Patriots moved south. I mean, maybe Tom actually wanted to move a little bit souther and go a little bit more south and go play for Brian Flores. But I really like this Miami team. The only problem I have with you putting them 5 in the rankings, and we've talked about this, is the fact that the Bills are probably going to win this division, and the Dolphins probably, hopefully, get overtaken by the Patriots in the AFC East standings, but I think it's safe. I could actually, and we all heard Ray get a little wound up about the Steelers falling to number 4. I have an issue with that too, but I'll kind of spoil my number 3. I actually think the Dolphins are in a better situation than the Packers, and I'll tell you why in just a second. At number 4, you have the Steelers. I think it's fair because I think the Saints are better than them, but I think the Steelers are better than the Packers. I think the Packers have a great coaching staff. They still have Aaron Rodgers, but the Steelers are just so dynamic. I mean, if they have James Conner last night, it may be a different story. But they had some COVID issues as well. And we can't blame it on that. And I've been preaching that all year, right? And that's what I said to Bobby. That's what I said to you about the Patriots. Like, if they're playing, they got to be there. If they can't do their job, they shouldn't be playing. So I think the Steelers at 4 is fair. The Packers, I think, are a little high. We've seen this team, and you mentioned the Steelers could be that team that goes 15-1 and loses in the first round. We've seen that from the Packers so many times. An Aaron Rodgers-led Packers team that goes into the playoffs looking great. They're high-flying. They're dynamic. These guys have Aaron Jones. They have Devontae Adams. They have all of these pieces on offense. They're high-flying and dynamic, but they can never finish. And I just don't like them at 3 because I see that coming for them again. The Saints, man, they've been saying that Taysom Hill was going to be the guy after Drew Brees anyway, and this is like a tryout for this kid. And honestly, he's getting better week by week. He really is. And
he was unbelievable last week.
And I think that Sean Payton has what it takes to coach this guy. And I mean, Drew Brees was never a mobile quarterback, right? He was never what Taysom Hill can be, but I mean, Drew Brees is a better quarterback than Taysom Hill. We know that. Taysom Hill also hasn't reached his ceiling, and Drew Brees is still playing at the top of his game at 38 years old. So, and then the Chiefs, I'm with you on the Chiefs. I mean, they're just so good. And their defense, honestly, I think their defense is underrated. I think they have a really, really good team. I'm a fan of your top 10 all the way around. I mean, I think you have the right teams in there. But I mean, it's so interesting. This league is really heating up as we come into the last 4 weeks of the season, right?
So glad you asked. All right. So
what, you have something to say about it?
Right. What do you got to say?
What?
Okay, so I mean, Miami at 5. Okay, great. I mean, whatever. They've done really well. We talked about Tua being the answer eventually. Like, I'm just not sure why people thought that Fitzpatrick should still be the guy if Tua was healthy and he showed him enough in practice to be on the field, which he did. So,
because Fitzpatrick wasn't faltering, just to rebut that. Fitzpatrick was playing well enough not to. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, whatever. He's never been someone. Even when they went 9-7 in Buffalo and New York, he threw the pick at the end of the game. Like, I mean, please. So he's never been someone that I thought like, oh my gosh, he's gonna get us there. So
I feel like that's why I think they did that, because it didn't matter. You know what I mean? I feel like they saw the tape, they saw what happened. They're like, okay, we're the same team, whether we have Ryan Fitzpatrick or our rookie quarterback who's our future. Let's play our rookie quarterback who's the future.
They're going to be better with Tua. We know that. But Fitzpatrick can manage the game. And maybe, Ray, they didn't realize what they had at first, and they were going with Fitzpatrick like you just said. Let's see what Tua has in practice and what he can bring to the table. And this is what I'm talking about, Brian Flores. He made that switch at the exact right time. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he made the move and went with it. And I understand we all talk about Brady and Garoppolo of the past here in New England, but maybe Belichick and Kraft can take a few notes out of Brian Flores' book. But carry on.
It boggles my mind that because they lost a game, now they dropped to 4. But then you praise the Saints because they have had injuries as if Pittsburgh's been healthy all year. You lose Devin Bush, you lose. I forget who they just lost last week. I forget the guy's name, but I mean, TJ Watt's played out of his mind, so he's been great. Minka Fitzpatrick's been awesome, but they haven't been healthy all year themselves. And as far as James Conner goes, I mean, whether he's been in there or not, then this is not the James Franco, Amazera way, Jerome Bettis. This is not those guys. They're not running through the door. So they've been 29th, 30th, and 31st. I think the last few years in running. So they're I mean, as far as rushing, so they're not. That's no longer their identity. So we still think of the Steel Curtain and those guys running through everybody. Those teams are gone. It's a throwing league. They got Claypool. They got Juju. They got Deontay Johnson. That's their identity now. That's fine. But losing one game, and just because you don't win with style points, and I know we're so big on that, especially, because we got ruined by college football. Like, oh, you have to beat a team 45-6, or you have to beat a team 77-8 or whatever. And it's like, look, at the end of the day, did you get the win? And 11 times out of 12, which is a 9-10 winning percentage, they found a way to get the job done. So are they still, they're top 2. And to me, they're right behind Kansas City now. So I'm fine with that. Like, Kansas City should be number 1 since they both have one loss. I'm cool with that. But that's the only switch I would make in that top 5. Say, putting New Orleans back at number 4. Yes, they've won a lot in a row. Taysom Hill has been awesome, even though people thought that he wasn't going to do much for some reason. But I'm like, he's showing y'all that he can ball when he's been out there. So to think that he wasn't, and hello, he got drafted as a quarterback, y'all. He didn't come in here as a wide receiver. He didn't come in here as a safety. He didn't come in here as a fullback or a tight end. He played quarterback at BYU, y'all. So stop being a Monday morning quarterback or an armchair quarterback. The man can ball. He's not Tebow. He's not, as much as I love Tebow, he's not in that mode. He's much better, and he's showing them.
And that's why he's not going to get the respect that he gets, is because people think he was like a Tim Couch where they were trying to draft him as a wide receiver. You're absolutely right.
Or Tebow.
He was drafted as a quarterback.
Tebow.
Hey, sure, as Tebow. But Tebow was drafted as a quarterback. The Browns didn't want to draft Tim Couch as a quarterback, right? Like, there's been guys in the past. I mean, Edelman.
Wait,
Edelman
actually,
was drafted.
Tim Couch?
The team that was going to draft him.
Eric Crouch. Maybe not. Eric Crouch.
I'm sorry, Eric
Crouch.
They were gonna. Do you want to say Eric Crouch 5 more times, or you want me to keep going?
Shout out to Nebraska. But no, go ahead.
Right. So you guys know who I'm talking about. But Eric Crouch was drafted as a wide receiver. He retired. So same thing with Julian Edelman. He was a quarterback drafted as a wide receiver. Taysom Hill was drafted as a quarterback and then proved that. And I think he knew Drew Brees was going to be there for a while. So he said, well, I'll do whatever I got to do to get on the field. I'll do it. And he was good enough because of who he was at BYU. And I said this to a friend the other day. I just hope he gets the respect that he deserves as a quarterback, and not by the league, but by the fans. And he's not going to get it because of those exact reasons you just said. But, man, this kid can play, and he is the future of the New Orleans Saints.
Can I give one, since you guys brought him up, I want to give one Tim Tebow hot take, where I think if Tim Tebow had the attitude that Taysom Hill did day one coming in, where he knew he had to prove himself to get to be a quarterback, he had to prove himself on the football team as a football player. And that's what Taysom Hill did. He played special teams. He played wide receiver. He did whatever they asked, exactly like you said. And I think if Tim Tebow had that attitude coming in, he honestly was a better athlete and a better football player than Taysom Hill is. And I think he would have been more successful in those roles than Taysom Hill was. And I think we'd be talking about a whole different Tim Tebow.
You're talking to a Gators fan, so no, of course. Like, I mean, I love Tebow. I'm just saying, like, remember, that team was 1-4. He comes in, they go 7-4, they make the playoffs, and the rest was history. But yeah, he was just so stuck on being a quarterback that he wasn't going to say, okay, I'm going to be a fullback, I'm going to be a tight end if you need me to be. Which he definitely could have been. He had the wherewithal to do all that, but it just didn't happen that way.
Sorry, Tebow tangent. My bad. Tebow tangent.
We've gone off on a few.
Tebow tangents.
Tell me about
tangents are okay. Tebow tangents are okay.
Tell me about your thoughts on the number 1 pick there, Ray.
The number 1 pick. Oh, but Kansas City, it has been the cream of the crop, and they'll continue to do so. Now, I wouldn't say their defense is underrated. I just think their defense does enough because you can when you have, a guy like Mahomes backing you up. So, they're good. They'll get the job done as they've done so many times before. But I just think that it's funny because I saw this on NFL Good Morning, and I actually agree with this. But they had mentioned, like, Kansas City is not really blowing out their opponents. Like, they're very methodical with how they do. Yeah, like they were last year, so it's like, they can and will give up 30 in the game. Like, they gave up 30 to Carolina, they gave up 40 to the Raiders. So they are vulnerable. Just to think you have to go score for score. And in most teams, because most teams can't, that's where, you're basically defeated as soon as you come off the bus, because you just feel like, well, there's no way we can stop them. And if it's 4th and 2 or less, Andy Reid is going to embarrass you, and they're going to go for it. And then now it's halftime, and you're down 28-0. It's like, well, what the fuck just happened? So, but yeah, no, KC is definitely number 1 team, though.
Do you think KC is good enough? Last thing I'll say about them, and we can get on to the coaches. Do you think they're good enough that they do it on purpose? They almost seem like that kind of team that they do feel like they can turn it right. They can turn it on and off at will, to the point where they're not showing. That's why I think Kansas City is almost unbeatable, because I think that they have a whole nother level that we haven't seen yet.
So one thing that Patrick Mahomes said, and things that we've seen on TV and just in interviews and highlights of him, one thing he said, that his first year in the NFL, he didn't even know how to read a defense, and he still played the way he did out of his mind, because he's just a natural athlete with a high football IQ. And then we've seen him, we have seen him make eye contact with officials as he's looking for flags. We've seen him do things on the football field that he just does as him, because he is a different dude.
No look passes.
The no look, but like he's just a different dude. He processes the game a different way, and the game moves slower for him. And that is one thing that this Kansas City team has that no other team has, is a guy like that's that athletic. I mean, yeah, the Bucks might have that, but he's 43. So sure, the game is different to Tom Brady as well. But man, I just can't. I couldn't say enough about Patrick Mahomes. But real quick, I have 3 rapid fire questions for you guys. I want yes or no answers to the first 2, and I want a team to the third one. We're not gonna expand on it, because we don't want to go forever, and I do want to get to this coach's topic. Okay, so here we go. Rayshawn, you're gonna get to answer the first question. Are the Tennessee Titans frauds?
No.
Bobby, are the Tennessee Titans frauds?
No.
Are the Cleveland Browns for real? Bobby?
Absolutely.
Rayshawn?
Yes.
Who will win the NFC East? Ray?
Giants.
Bobby?
Goddamn. I don't want to agree with him. I'm going to say Giants. Giants are definitely winning it.
You know what? It's a great story. The only thing I'll expand on that, it's a great story in Washington. Besides the fact that their owner is a
Joke.
trashy human being, but with their head coach, I think everybody in the NFL loves Ron Rivera, and we hope that he's good going down the road. Anybody that has to go through something like that, we've all had family members and friends that have had to go through cancer and cancer treatments, and this dude here's another guy that's built different, right? Like he's out here looking like hell, looking like he should be not on his deathbed, but at least in bed.
He looks like crap,
but he's out there, and his team is balling for him right now, and that's great for Ron Rivera.
That's the difference. Is the two teams at the top have a coach and a staff that the team believes in, and they're playing hard because of their coach. I don't know if you guys heard the interview that Logan Ryan had a little while ago, but he was talking about how awesome Joe Judge is because his wife got sick and like this whole thing happened, and how much he believed in him and let him do his thing. I just love Joe Judge. I think he's a great coach.
Sometimes it does come out to being a good human being, right? Yeah. So there's your message for the night. You can be good at what you do by just being a good person. So the last topic I want to get on, well, bad coaches. I mean, those guys can be good people too. We all are like, I'm not saying there's a correlation here, but sometimes. So the last topic I want to touch on tonight is coaches that are on the hot seat. Guys, we've seen 3 NFL coaches fired during the season. The first one was Bill O'Brien of the Texans. After week 6, the team was 1-5. Bill O'Brien was relieved of his duties. Dan Quinn, the Falcons were 1-7. He was relieved of his duties. Matt Patricia, they were 5-6 under Patricia. They're now 1-0 under Darrell Bevell, who took over. So Darrell Bevell, who was the offensive coordinator in his second season, takes over his interim head coach. Bill O'Brien is relieved of his duties. The Texans are 3-3 and actually looking like a good team under Romeo Crennel, who he was the associate head coach in his first season. Previously, he had been serving as a defensive coordinator and a defensive assistant. He's in his 7th season overall. He is also the oldest head coach in NFL history. There's your trivia for the day. The oldest head coach in NFL history, Romeo Crennel, passing George Halas. And then the other one is Raheem Morris taking over the helm of the Falcons. The team was 1-7 under Dan Quinn, and the Falcons are now 3-1 under Raheem Morris and actually looking like a good football team. Defensive coordinator prior to taking over as interim head coach. Guys, we've seen some bad teams in the NFL this season. We've heard of some guys that are on the hot seat now. 3 coaches have been relieved of their duties since 2000. That has happened 2 other times. Only one time since 2000 have 4 coaches been relieved of their duties in season, and that was in 2010 when the 49ers fired Mike Singletary, the Broncos fired Josh McDaniels, the Vikings fired Brad Childress, and the Cowboys fired Wade Phillips.
That was one of the happiest days of my life.
Right? So after week 13, or I shouldn't say after, because as we record this, are in the midst of the final game of week 13. There are 6 coaches that are reportedly on the hot seat, and here they are. Adam Gase of the Jets, that team is 0-12. Doug Marrone of the Jaguars, that team is 1-11. You have Doug Peterson of the Eagles, that team is 3-8-1. Anthony Lynn of the Chargers, that team is 3-9. Vic Fangio, 4-8 Broncos, and Matt Nagy, 5-7 Bears. Guys, we talked about coaches a little bit earlier, right? We talked about a lot of the really good ones, the Pete Carrolls, the Bill Belichick's, the Andy Reids, the Mike Tomlins of the NFL. I don't think all of these coaches are bad coaches, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But, Bobby, of those 6, I don't want to play the game of who's going to be the next one to lose their job, but who's the next one that's going to lose his job?
So 2 stand out to me. Anthony Lynn is one, just because of I've never seen a team blow so many leads by just strictly absurd, questionable decisions by the head coach. I love Anthony Lynn. I watched that Hard Knocks, and I was an Anthony Lynn believer, man. I was in. Felt like Morgan Freeman was sitting there talking to me, head coach of the Chargers. It was unbelievable. But, man, when I saw him 2 weeks ago call a timeout I've never seen a head coach do this before in my entire life. It's 4th and 3. There is 45 seconds left in the second quarter. About to go to halftime. The clock is running, right? So you can run the clock down to 3 seconds, 2 seconds, call a timeout, throw a Hail Mary. This dude calls a timeout with 43 seconds left and then punts the ball. So you literally just called a timeout in order to give the other team an extra possession. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. The other one is a favorite to me. I think he should already be gone. This is for DK, and that's Matt Nagy. The offense I see in Chicago is absolute blasphemy. That team is awful, man. That offense is so bad, and it starts with the play calling. Because when you see 4th and 6, and you're running a quarterback draw, or you're running a halfback like stretch or a screen, like it's just like, what are you doing? It's like I said in the chat the other day, it's like Scott Linehan is the head coach of the Chicago Bears, and he was the worst offensive coordinator I've ever seen.
Also, a guy that was fired in season as a head coach.
Right. So Lions, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, Matt Nagy to me is the favorite. I think he should have already been gone. DK wanted him gone when they were 5-1, and now they're 5-7. Matt Nagy needs to go.
Ray, what are your thoughts on this list of 6 guys? And again, don't want anybody to lose their job, but who should be next to lose their job?
Doug Marrone down in Jacksonville needs to go. They got crowned the AFC champions in 2017 without even winning. You had Miles Jack, you had Leonard Fournette, you had Blake Bortles, who was supposed to be Roethlisberger 2.0. AJ Bouye. You had all these guys on that team that was supposed to be next up, and they're gonna be the contenders for the next 2 years. And then, yes, some guys left or whatever. I know they had Dante Fowler as well.
Telvin Smith.
Yeah, Telvin Smith. So all that. So it's like they had a really good nucleus there, and then just like that, they're gone, right? And the days of wishing their glory days with Brunell and Jimmy Smith and those guys are not going to go down their dark history, but that's those days were gone. So Doug Marrone needs to go. I'm not in agreement about Anthony Lynn going. Once again, 2 years ago they were just 12-4 and had a chance and beat Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Now granted, they didn't come up to New England prepared at all. Like the game was over as soon as they got off the bus. Like it was a joke.
They got
it was
their
over.
asses whooped.
Yeah, exactly. To put it lightly, so I do think that they're a team that's just never fully been healthy, and if they are healthy, they're very good. And once again, he said it himself. We were building in the right direction, and it hasn't been it. Listen, they found their quarterback now. Justin Herbert has been a hit. Bobby was right about that. I didn't think he was going to be. I didn't trust the quarterback from Oregon. I don't trust quarterbacks from the West Coast anyways, for the most part, for the Pac-12, or Pac-10, whatever it was at that time. Excuse me. So, but I mean, I can't disagree. Matt Nagy has to go. You can't be 5-1 and basically running the NFC North, and then you lose not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 straight. It's unacceptable. And hey, pack your bags, sir, and enjoy the holidays with your family.
Yeah, early in the season, before the season started, there was a few of these guys on my list, and that was Adam Gase, Doug Marrone, and Vic Fangio. And Doug Peterson was close to that list. Anthony Lynn to me was never on that list. I kind of echo Ray a little bit here. They were 12-4 2 years ago. Granted, that was with Phillip Rivers, right? But prior to the season, they couldn't decide who they wanted as their quarterback. I'm almost thinking that Anthony Lynn was pressured into taking Justin Herbert, and maybe didn't want to, but why would you want Tyrod Taylor as your guy all the way through? I just don't see him as a long-term solution. No, right. So, but at the same time,
makes me feel like I can't breathe, like my lungs punctured or something.
So, but Anthony Lynn just signed an extension in February, like before all the COVID stuff happened, before the season was in doubt. Yeah, but you know what? He's such a tough one because he has been
the
making,
way it's happened, man.
He has been making some bad decisions. Like he didn't know when to name that. Like everything that I said that was positive about Brian Flores in Miami. Anthony Lynn has done the exact opposite in LA. And it blows my mind that this guy, he's a great coach. Like, I really do believe that he is an above average to very good head coach and will be in the NFL for a long time. I just think he has to understand how to make his decision. And you know what? Maybe the Chargers ownership, because and I always preach the bad ownership angle. Maybe ownership is a problem. It's the same owners that had this team in San Diego, and they unlawfully, unrightfully moved them to LA, whatever. So maybe there's a rift there, and we just don't know about it. Doug Peterson of the Eagles, I just think what they have there is over, and it's time to move on and go with the next guy. He's not my leading candidate to be fired next of these 6, but I really do think it's just in Philadelphia. Like, let the season happen. The NFC East is a bad division. Like, so what? Just let it finish off. Like, if Mike McCarthy isn't going to get fired when his team doesn't even want to play with him, then just play for him. Just let Doug Peterson stay till the end of the year. We talked about Adam Gase on the Slack channel the other day. I think Adam Gase is the worst head coach in the NFL. I honestly do. I think he's absolutely, and people can look back and go, well, he took the Dolphins to the playoffs. Well, great. I mean, Joe Philbin wasn't a good head coach in the NFL either, but he built a team that Adam
I like
Gase
Joe Philbin.
I still don't think he's a very good head coach. I liked him.
He's a good coordinator.
Yeah. He's great. Yeah, sure. But that's kind of how I feel about Josh McDaniels. I don't think he's a great coordinator right now, but I think he's a good coordinator in the right situation and a bad head coach. But right. Then Doug Marrone. I honestly think that the Jaguars are just trying to play themselves into Spurs Stadium in London. I honestly do. I think that the Jaguars owner is just trying to get that team out of the country, be the first international franchise in the NFL. He's building a fan base. He loves playing 2 to 3 games a year over in London. Obviously, that didn't happen this year, but they were slated to play 2 over there this year, had everything gone the right way. He doesn't want to play in Mexico. He'll never go down there. Even Bill Belichick will agree to go play in Mexico, but the Jaguars owner only wants to play in London. That's weird. So I think Doug Marrone and that guy are just trying to play themselves into London, and I just think Doug Marrone's a bad head coach. Vic Fangio, also not very good, but it's what they have in Denver right now.
Have you been to Atlantic Ave in Jacksonville, Joe? So you wouldn't want to play over there either. So I don't, Tony Khan, I don't blame you, dog. Like I had to go play in London too. And just have a blast over there. Like
I've heard Jacksonville is awful.
It is, like, Joe. Hey, sorry to my homies in Duval County. My bad, but I'm sorry. Like, ain't nothing good over there outside of Zaxby's. But
I feel like Jacksonville type of city where like you don't need to be worried about the people living there hating you for saying it sucks, because if you say it to them, they're like, yeah, dude, that fucking sucks here.
But to answer the question I answered at the beginning, who's the next guy to go? It really should be Matt Nagy. Like I could make excuses for all the other coaches as to why they're staying. Even Adam Gase, it's the tank for Trevor. He'll go at the end of the year once Trevor Lawrence declares for the draft, which I have a take on that part too. But it's got to be Matt Nagy. I mean, you started 5-1, and DK was calling for your job then, and then you go 0-6, and he doesn't know who he wants to play a quarterback either. It's like having 2 ex-girlfriends, and you just keep dating one of them to see which one likes you the most at the end of the day. And it's like, all right, Matt, like, get over yourself and move on. Pick one. It just
rule of thumb there: you never go from 2 to 1. You will always, forever, go from 2 girlfriends to 0 girlfriends. Like, he's going to go from 2 quarterbacks to 0 quarterbacks because he's gone.
This is a real life scenario that Bob Kelly has.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
Endorsed by missing the point.
That is not true. I have a loving relationship, and
well, yes, now, but now you have a loving relationship. Your girlfriend is phenomenal, but we've all known you for a very long time. You go 2 to 0. Anyway, real quick, but
I don't think Adam Gase is gone, and I know that's a blasphemous thing and a crazy thing to say, but if you're going to fire the defensive coordinator after last week, then why the hell wouldn't you fire the head coach? I honestly, I know, but like, honestly, if you're going to do it. And I think that to me is a sign of the Jets. I know this is crazy. I really don't think they're going to fire him, because I think this has been the goal all season. And I think that it's going to be something where they're like, listen, 0-16. It's going to be Hugh Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, let's see what happens when he has a real quarterback, when he has his team. And I really think that is what's going to happen because, like I said in the Slack channel the other day, it honestly wouldn't surprise me, though, if they drafted Lawrence, went through the entire preseason, and then fired Gase, because we are talking about a team who let a GM draft their entire draft this past year and then fired him 3 days later.
Well, a lot of times the problem in the NFL is the fact that ownership is bad. I don't disagree with you necessarily. I mean, owners in the NFL, we've seen so many of them that are just. Jim Irsay, Snyder, your boy down there in Dallas.
Irsay was a dirtbag. Was he a bad owner?
I think he's a bad owner too. He's a bad owner.
He's all the above.
But the Colts have been good for a while now.
Yeah, but you can have a good football team and still have a bad owner. I mean, Jerry Jones is a bad owner and a bad GM, but if he gave up that GM role to his son, I think that team would be so much better. Or hired somebody from the outside. That's what they need to do. He just has so many control issues that it makes him. He makes the money, but he shoots himself in the foot all the time. And then we all know that Daniel Snyder is just a slime ball. So, all right, guys. Well, that was a wonderful, we've now gone towards an hour and 10 minutes here on this episode, and Craig's beanie has come off. His hair is a mess. He doesn't know how he's going to edit this and get it out. But guys, as we finish up our discussion here on episode 21 of Missing the Point, I don't think we have anything formulated, but Rayshawn, give me your final thoughts on tonight.
Well, great show as always, fellas. I just want to reiterate, do not let the Patriots get hot. That's all I'm gonna say. Do not let us get hot. Do not let us get rolling and get the ball.
You're going Kevin Millar on us.
I'm going.
Don't let the Pats win.
Yeah, exactly, because you got LA Thursday, you got Miami next Sunday, you got Buffalo the following Monday, and then you end with the terrible Jets. So, and they're just ending their season early. Okay, so don't let us get hot. We're coming. Superman is in the building.
Wouldn't it be great, just real quick to interject on that, wouldn't it be great if the Patriots do go 10-6? And this is complete speculation and wildly incredible. The Patriots go 10-6. I know Bobby hates to hear this because not only did I just diss his Cowboys.
I just thought this was the year. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at now, is like, the Patriots are bad. Let's go.
Yeah, the Patriots are bad and the Cowboys are going to be good. And then that's not how it is, right?
No, the Cowboys are good in 3-13, and the Patriots are bad and going to be 10-6. What the fuck is going on?
So my thought on that, just to go off what Ray said. Imagine they get hot, they go 10-6, they get that 6th or 7th seed, they go on a run, and they get to the Super Bowl in Tampa.
That would be nuts. That would be nuts.
Wait a minute. You couldn't write this any better. But anyway, right. Bobby, give me your final thought.
That was awesome. That would be awesome. Now I'm just thinking about Cam Newton running out of Tom Brady's stadium in the Super Bowl. Oh my Lord!
Let's go.
Yeah. Oh my Lord! Can you imagine?
Could you imagine against Tom Brady? All right, anyway, all right. Go. Give me your final take. Now we're going off the rails.
So my final take is, first, this has been an awesome show. I really enjoyed every minute of this. Secondly, is I think it's hilarious to me that the New York Jets that Trevor Lawrence actually is considering staying in Clemson just to stay away from the New York Jets. That's how bad, right? And that's how bad that franchise is. And I really think that they're that bad that they are going to keep Adam Gase. And that's going to be my final take, is that Adam Gase is going to be the New York Jets head coach in 2021. And I honestly, legitimately believe that. And
regardless of if they have Trevor Lawrence or not?
Yeah, regardless, he's there. I really think he's going to be.
I hate that take. I hate Bobby. You suck. Craig, do you have anything else?
Full circle, though? Wait, full circle. That's why they should have been deleted from the NFL. Get out of here.
No, it's still the Lions. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great episode. So we filled you in on the NFL, the state of the NFL coaches, and everything else. I mean, you listened to it. This is the end. So again, look out for our live episode, our live show, the Sunday Night Sports Wrap on December 13th, 6 to 8 p.m. on Twitch and Facebook Live. Maybe, but definitely over on Twitch on the Missing the Point Twitch channel. So if you're listening to this, go over and follow that. There's not much there yet, but we're starting our first live show there on Sunday, December 13th at 6 p.m. To talk everything NFL, and we're even going to mix in a little NBA because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'll be pushing it a little bit this week, and you'll hear it on December 17th, and that will be our interview with former Boston sports reporter Abby Chin. And then the boys are gonna, and I'm not gonna be on this one because listen, I can Kyrie lives in my head rent free, but Rayshawn and the guys are going to do their NBA preview show, which will come out on the opening day of the NBA season, which is December 22nd. So we have so much coming out. We really hope you enjoyed this episode and us talking NFL for Rayshawn Buchanan, Bob Kelly, and the best looking executive producer, Craig Delisant. For the guys, I'm Joe Malkin. Thank you for joining us on episode 21 of Missing the Point. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Missing the Point. Missing the Point is a 1-hour weekly podcast recapping the biggest stories in the world of sports with a New England flavor. The show notes from today's episode and transcript can be found in the description box below, as well as on our website, www.mtpshow.com. If you're new to the show and like what you heard, consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to see when we publish new episodes. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to rate us and leave a review of any of our shows. We always appreciate your feedback. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. All those links will be in the show notes. Also, check out our brand new website, www.mtpshow.com. That's mtpshow.com. For all of us here at Missing the Point, I'm Craig Delisandro. We'll talk to you next time.
Welcome to the Reverie Channel, where entertainment knows no bounds. Live concerts, on-demand music, documentaries, and short films, all in stunning HD. Now on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Immerse yourself from home. And on Android and iOS for those on the move. Support creators with crowdfunding donations. Fuel their creativity. Join us in shaping entertainment's future. The Reverie Channel, where every view, every donation matters.
Welcome, explorers of the human experience. This is Let's Talk Soul, and I'm your host, Claudia Monticelli. We're not afraid of the great mysteries of existence here. Soul versus consciousness, we're on it. Spirituality versus science, we've got that covered too. Join us in navigating these profound topics with wisdom, curiosity, and a dash of audacity. Whether you're a spiritual veteran or just starting your journey, Let's Talk Soul is your passport to the unknown. Let's Talk Soul, diving into the depths of the human spirit. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Electricast.